Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, Donna Susak.
Here.
Walter Purcell.
Here.
Gina Sakala.
Here.
Bob Prasadi.
Here.
Marie is not coming tonight. Scott Ryder. Tim Neville.
Here.
Doug Maxellen. Tina LeBlanc.
Here.
Jonathan LeBlanc.
Here.
Charlotte Riley. Bethany Olet. Melissa Everett. Okay, Jaime Cisneros. Jeff Leonowitz.
Here.
Chris Cycli is on, okay.
Here.
And is there anybody else online? Okay, and then, let's see.
Everett, sorry.
Okay, all right, I'll you down.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? from 10?
Second. Motion by Tim, second.
Oh,
Second by Walter, all in favor? Show of hands.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, we have one abstention, two abstentions. Gina, you were in favor?
I'm in favor.
You're in favor. Okay, they're in
Two
favor.
abstentions.
Okay.
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here the last meeting.
Okay.
Three abstentions.
Three abstentions.
Charlotte.
Charlie in favor? Okay.
That's
everyone-
very.
We have no minutes from the 24th. The meeting was canceled. Maybe put that down so that everybody's
Yep.
clear. Okay, we have old business, and I'm going to turn over, I would say, A through E to Chris and Tom. Hibbert. Right. Okay. Nobody gets-
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes, Chris, we can hear you.
Now we can.
Chris,
Okay.
can you,
So, Darna,
Yes.
all three phases, there's no update.
Okay, that's fine.
What's that?
Good.
Eli Whitney and Hazardville.
There we go. Are we?
you're all broke up, Christopher.
Cell phone, no, it's sounds like it's on a cell or something.
Enfield Road to Chris Sankley, come in.
We were talking about, we can't hear you.
Oh, Clay, so.
Oh, yeah, he's gone. We lost him.
Okay, I'd like to come back to that.
We'll come back to when we get Chris back and listen. Tom, do you know anything about what's going on? Okay. All right.
No, not Barner, we're
No,
talking
Eli
about.
Whitney and Hazardville.
The Hazardville.
Okay, that's all right. I just wanted to give you an opportunity. We're in the loop and, so after the roof referendum, we had the presentation, we had the public hearing. And, the public hearing was this past, Tuesday. Yeah.
And we were fighting.
Melissa just arrived. Well,
Chris is back. He said no, I said yes. He said no, I said yes. He said no, I said yes. However he did, you know.
All right, can everybody hear me now?
yeah.
There we go. All right,
Yes.
so Barnard, the 3 phases, there's no update. Those will just roll into audit. I don't know if you want to leave them on or take them off the agenda, and then we can update as we hear, but they're just going to sit there for a while.
But they're all now in the audit, and I will update that on the agenda. You can also be in the audit.
And then Eli Whitney in Hazardville. We have a phone call with purchasing tomorrow to finalize the Eli Whitney document. And then I believe we will be all set to advertise.
Is there anything we still have to approve or that's all done?
Nothing yet. Not until we get this stuff approved with purchasing. Then we'll schedule the meetings to get everything approved. Don't worry. We'll let you know
Is that for
when we
both?
need the meetings.
Is that for Eli and Hazardville?
What's that?
Is that for Eli and Hazardville or only Eli? You just said Eli.
No, it'll be for both. So we did a thorough review of the Eli document, and then we'll copy it over for Hazardville.
That's the town requirement. That's not the document.
No. So purchasing has, review, they get everything in place between, what they need for procurement and our insurance, people. They put all their 2 cents in. Once that's all ironed up, it goes to legal, which is a fast turnaround. They just double check that the contracts are in favor of the town. At that point, signed off by legal, it goes to Director Wilcox. Final approval for this is the hardest step of the town process. As soon as we get legal is very straightforward. Usually make sure they're dotted the right way. I'm not a like so as long as they say it's good, usually pretty quick. Then at that point, probably be pulling the rates and we have our obligation.
If I heard Chris correctly, he said he armed.
It would have to go to legal. But we can't get to legal until approval purchasing. Then it goes to legal. Then
Can you quantify that?
no, I could not speak directly, but from experience, legal is the best. They're looking really just at they're not interested in the specification as much as just making sure like usually more like contract language, making sure it's proper, and all that stuff. But legal is usually very quick. Usually legal has stuff in a week or less. They go through the whole document. These are some pretty, I put in some big books before. They're really good at getting out. That buys time for trade for us to go get our prevailing wages. The state has a perishable time frame. You're not allowed to get them too early. They're only good for 20 days, and then they expire. You have to go back to the Department of Labor, but they have 10 days from your application to issue them. So we usually try to run the way DPW handles this. Once it's legal's review, we know it's going to turn around faster. So once we know we're going to legal, we go get our prevailing wage sheets from the state, because then the state has their requirements. So it's kind of a jumble. It sounds kind of complicated, but we do it a lot, so we're kind of used to it. But it's purchasing has a very purchasing and our risk management and our insurance providers have very strict protocols to follow, but they are for the town's best interest to protect us legally. So it is a pain, but once we have a process in place and we reissue these types of documents, not much has changed other than updating probably the insurance limits. So once we have a proven document, it makes us easier for every concurrent document. Not much has changed other than like building drawings. That's risk managers aren't really very interested in the actual drawings. The most important, yes, correct.
Can't hear anything.
We can't hear you guys.
I'm asking.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard to hear you guys in the conference room.
Process of making sure the contract is ready to go out to bid. This building committee, because this is what we act as when we are here, we are the building committee for this roof replacement. I believe those drawings were dated in February. Now, we've been sitting here now, last I knew it was July. And I'm not hearing that we're going out till August. I'm really not hearing that. And I want to know, how do we do it better? How do we do it better? We do it good. Everybody's, I don't know. I don't know. For me, the whole thing, all these contracts are really great. I love contracts. They're wonderful. Fire. What's really important is what's on those drawings. They're going to bid this thing by those drawings, and to my knowledge, we have not approved it. So that's my frustration. I don't understand how it works.
You haven't approved the drawings yet because the approval is for the drawings, the specifications, and the estimate. And the specifications are.
I can't hear you.
I just want to do this better.
No,
I mean, we're going to a roof referendum. Everything's going to have to go out to bid. We can't take 6 months.
The front end, which we've been working with purchasing, is part of the. We'll have this document, and it won't take 6 months moving forward because we'll have this document that will already have been vetted by everyone, rather than a few updates in specific spec sections and construction drawings for each of the respective roofs that'll be replaced. So those will get inserted into this master document, and then it'll be all set to go.
Last meeting I sat there, I listened to and it's probably been good. And I hear Scott Ryder tell me that there's water at the UN school. I mean, this is, and anybody will tell you, I was really obnoxious in December to get this thing moving forward so that we could go out to bid and we could do this in the summer. And good God, if it will ever stop raining. And it's not my fault, it ever rained. And if you can take anybody was wondering, the rain gauge is fine, so don't blame me. So I just rant and rave about this, but I just think it's not that we don't do it right. It's not that, but we need to do it more expeditiously. And we have so many things, and I know Chris talked about getting another person on board to help with doing these things. But I just feel like maybe this wasn't the right place to learn. Maybe these were too critical with especially the way Whitney. I mean, roof. There's no forever roof, okay? I don't care how many people get up in front of the council on the wall. The pitch roofs don't last forever either. So it's just, so I guess I've said my piece. Does anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to add into that. We're in the same place we were last year. I kept saying we can't do this again.
We're
We're here
in
again.
the same place we were on the Henry Barnard.
That's right.
one.
You're absolutely right.
Phase 1.
You're right.
So I have a question. What then
what are the things that are subject to human control and choice rather than, there's like two categories of things. Fixed things that have to be done the way the state wants them, blah, blah.
That's what we're going to
You know.
do.
But what are the points of choice where we could actually drill in and learn to do things?
Well, I listened to Jeff and he says we are learning. to
Oh,
do
for
that.
sure, for sure. There's no question of that.
So, I mean, from my takeaway from this, it's like, and I know I was kind of a big pusher for the streets. I know with the street, you're opening up to a wider group of contractors, which means more people can come out. When we bid on state contract, there's like 15 roofers and that's it. But there's more than 15 reputable roofing companies in the state, and a lot of really good ones are not on the state contract. So past experience that I've had is once you go out to a big bid and you have a broad audience, you can get some really great prices. And I think what the committee was looking for and the way we were trying to gear the funding is getting a really good bang for the buck. And the frustration with Henry Barnard in 3 phases, how do we maybe get it like, if not close all to one, but like, in one? How do we do that? And through state contract, unfortunately, it wasn't really a great avenue. And this was, I've never done this, a roof project with the town other than state contract. So we didn't know what we were expecting. I had an idea, but it's been a learning process for everybody because now it's not just the town's 2 cents, it's the state's 2 cents, because it's not the state contract. The state contract's kind of easy. We can't do anything with the state contract. We use it as is. So now you're trying to put the state and the town to make everybody happy. And it's definitely a learning curve, right? But I'm very hopeful and optimistic that with the roofing referendum, we not that I want to cut my teeth and make anything go longer, but I'm very hopeful that we then know the process. And, much like the roads and stuff, once, if we're just using paving contractors off state bid, your dollar doesn't go as far as going out to public bid. And then we can bid big projects at once. We'll know the format that we need to look at with the state and the town, and we can get some really great pricing and, really good stuff. So I'm very hopeful, but, this has been a learning experience, I think, for, everybody involved trying to get this specification through.
We got roofs that are leaking, and we're gonna be doing this in December. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It sounds like you've learned a lot on this purchasing part and this go around of roofs, because we had certain language we had to include that we didn't have before. So hopefully that's what we've learned this go around that we can just copy like Chris said. Has there been better response to going out to bid right now? Because it seems like the market is extremely oversaturated with work, and depending on the size of the project, what kind of response are we gonna get even if we put it out to bid?
So I can't give you a statement directly to that, but what I can give you is a statement based on what we are experiencing currently. And that is, yes, everybody is very busy. The problem with state contract is you have 169 municipalities, not-for-profits and other authorized users of the contract going after the same 15 folks, if you will. So you're putting a very large segment of work on a very small aspect. And this year, I would have never expected to see such a big building boom on top of a material shortage and lead times. We're seeing supply issues and all of DPW's supply chains. And some of the things don't make sense. For an example, we had somebody tell us that, it could be 5 months to get something for street signs. And I'm like, it used to be like 3 days. Some parts, they're not even giving me a delivery time because they just go, well, we'll get to you when we get to you. And I'm like, and this is very difficult with some proprietary products. There's only so many manufacturers of certain items. And everybody pulls on these same things. A really good experience well, it's not a great experience, but a very interesting difficulty that we're having right now is we're in the process of replacing the boilers at Stowe and Alcorn. And our RFP was timely, our contract award was timely. Just to give insight onto that particular project, it took me a year to get it out to the street. So, literally a year, really did take me a year from the day I received capital to get specs together with an engineering team, review the site, put out the bid documents. It took me just over a year to get it out, and now we're in the construction, which is great. But the boiler manufacturers and the burner manufacturer refuses to give me a date. They're saying that you are customer 350, and you will get your burner when your ticket is up. And the boiler manufacturer has informed us that my boiler sections that we ordered back in early April are delayed again to the middle of August. So for me, when I have two buildings right now, they're completely gutted. There's no heating system. It's fine when it's 90 degrees. But I'm stressing out because what if they get delayed farther? Now I'm already thinking about temporary heating plans to come in just in case. We've already been working with the contractors because usually the turnaround time on that material is like 4 to 6 weeks. It's like 16 to 24 weeks, and there's nothing. And it's not just one supplier. It's everybody in the industry is with everything. And this is an oddball year. It's an anomaly year. I'm glad to see everybody. I kind of forgot what everybody looked like from computers and stuff. So it's good to see everybody in person again. And I'm hoping we stay this way, and this is the end. But it's going to take time for the supply chain to snap back. So I'm hopeful that next summer, it's not this summer. But I'd rather be here today than where we were last summer. So, so I'm trying to find a silver lining for everything. So I'm just happy. But it's been an interesting year. I know Chris has seen a lot with JFK. It's just every aspect of the supply chain is just really, really tough right now.
Speaking of temporary boilers, I did ask at the last JFK meeting, they will not have temporary boilers.
Well, the only good thing is that maybe all the other schools are done in the summer, and we're doing ours in December.
Yes. Well,
Sorry.
well, I think Tom can speak to this a little bit because, some of our counterparts in, the state, they have a bid, but they can't get materials. So Tom's involved with a lot more roofing than I am.
There's a lot of bids out there. Insulation was just revolves around a couple of chemicals. The choice for popular that's I do everything on. And other chemicals are going to hit, but MDI is an expansion agent for foam insulation, and we're down to like 4 weeks, and that just crippled the supply chain. It's all petrol-based chemical that went through a wrench if it works. And I think it's going to get better because we are getting 150 days out to get insulation if we don't set supplies and so ridiculous, like 90 days or 100 days. But I think there will be some things and fasteners, very specific fasteners that we will have to be tested, treated. If I can motion for moving, yeah. And they're going to be slow.
Okay, I'll beat this with the death.
Yeah, I think that, well, everybody needs to hands on this because I think that everybody, that none was hard. And we are going to move forward. We're going to have a great plan. Everything else that, you do, and we do need to go on to them. Tom recommended it, and Jeff recommended it. And we do see a better price, better product. I mean, we sweated out phase 3. The third bid finally came in, we didn't get that. So, we get that. So, okay, so all set with that. All right, so back to roofing referendum, we have a public hearing. The only thing I disagree with in that everybody says is that roofs aren't pitched, sorry. The pitched roofs, we gather the water, interior, shoot it out of the building. We put big pitch roofs on there. I don't know how high they're gonna have to be because you gotta have the mechanical still up there. You gotta have head stakes, you gotta vent them, you gotta put gutters on the side and they gotta be really big gutters. And then you got the sidewalk there and you got the ice jams and everything else.
Snow slide, yeah, I think you said that.
That's the
You gotta do-
thing.
you gotta do a whole-
Clear.
You gotta do a whole new rainwater.
Yep.
Underground. Bring it down on the outside, bring it down on the inside. You gotta abandon that system. From the outside, you have to dig up your ground, your site to get that new rainwater in your storm sewer.
Right. And,
It's the Ludicron, this case.
right, and they don't last any longer than, you know, the membrane. They're not a forever product.
They one that wouldn't give us a higher referendum.
I don't even know how much more it would cost. So one of the things a lot of people don't realize is sometimes they see this thing going on, that there's an open back well in front. And they have the, what's the name of that roof?
A lot of them have,
Like a mansard
a
roof.
mansard roof, and there's a flat roof.
And that's from mostly planning and zoning regulations, because you can't see the mechanical equipment from the street, so it's designed to really just hide vent stacks, rooftops, and other than an architectural detail to make it look, you know, nicer than, you know, a lot of people don't want to see like a big box.
Screaming if you have a mansard roof.
But yeah, exactly what it is, because if you look at some of our elementary schools where the rooftops, we have that screening, and that's because of planning and zoning regulations, because they want a neighborhood to look like a neighborhood, not a business district, which it makes complete sense, but
We didn't do that at the head start. Right. And that's why that roof is really, really high. It is.
and there's certain issues with that steep pitch with certain, you know, weather conditions, snow and ice that we, you know, so every system has nothing to down, but nothing, I can tell you one thing, nothing is forever. If we find a forever product, that'd be fine right now.
It's something for future when we look into doing a police station, and that's an asphalt. What's the possibility of getting price for metal sheet?
So there's a good and a bad to a metal seam product. It's great because the metal itself lasts a really long time. I'm gonna use the senior center, and, you know, Tom worked with me on some repairs over there. It's the fastening system is still EPDM, EPD, and other, you know, rubber gasketed. They've gotten better, but repairing them when there is an issue,
We're more expensive than the best of not having it both fast. Yes, but that was not the best metal roof system.
but, you know,
People with that, it lasts longer, it is more durable, it is. In terms of being weather tight for extended years, that's the best roof, it doesn't have exposed that.
That roof also has a flat section.
it does.
Yes.
On the rear of the building, there's like a PD, there's a flat roof for the mechanical.
Just my thing.
The senior center has kind of the same thing as mansard, but when you go into the center, it's actually a regular flat roof, and all the rooftops and the roof vents and the air conditioning, all that stuff's up there, so. What's tough with commercial buildings is you have this huge bulky mechanical equipment that would take up huge amounts of building square footages, or forcing to make basements that are very costly, so everybody wants to put it on the roof. So it's like, pay now, pay later, where are you gonna put, you're gonna put it, I don't know.
Okay.
Keeps me busy.
Well, there you go. I told people, a lot of people said they're gonna vote for the referendum. So, whatever way you get it in there, vote yes. Okay, now we have energy procurement, contract, and you gave a report last time.
Yes.
There's probably no new information.
No, not currently. I will have some, it won't really be energy contract, but we have some exciting projects going on in the facilities consolidation. We have a lot of new boilers being put in. And, there's just some good stuff energy wise going on in town. Like I said, we're replacing 4 boilers. We're getting more efficient, boilers. We're sizing them appropriately instead of being oversized. So, we are still looking at how do we keep our energy portfolio manageable and responsible. So we're not just, blowing cash on gas and electricity if we don't have to. We're putting in brand new VRF air conditioning systems over at the Alcorn School, part of the facilities consolidation. You get air conditioning in there. These are very, very efficient, very good units, so it's, you know, we're still doing stuff, outside of contract, and I'd love to report on it if it's a line item.
You know what, that's what, I'm gonna change that, and, you know, energy performance contract and energy efficiency upgrades.
Because anytime we go out to anything, we always look at, like, with the roofing system, not just painting, but like, how much we insulate it, to make it more efficient. What kind of equipment we can select, how much less power it takes to do the same thing. So we're always, anytime we do something in a building, we do go for, better efficient, you know, higher efficient products that, you know, cross all the Ts and Is and, you know, it makes it more affordable to operate. So I can tell you, the electricity, cost hasn't gone down ever. And I don't think it will. So if we can try to hedge it with, you know, reducing consumption, you know, keep it flat, that's the goal.
When we look at water, we compare it to a full climate heat pump.
Yeah, so, yes, no, depends on the size of the structure. So a lot of these cold climate heat pumps are great. And they can run, they say they can run, but usually they're struggling really hard, but like trying to get the size of load for that building. You know, when you're in like that 1,500 square, like Energy Hour with Jeff, right? They're really good for like a residence and maybe, and I'm sorry to think of that, but like electric base or a reheat, but like when you start getting into bigger facilities that are bringing lots of fresh air in, using electric to heat that air on those cold days is not a cost-effective solution. So what I like to do is look at the best approach. And when I work with engineering staff and just my experience from being in the trades and being an HVAC contractor over the years, how do we blend the best of the worlds to make it, you know, work appropriately? Is it through controls? Do we use hot water radiation? Do we insulate, put a different style window in? So, you know, that's why it takes me a long time to go out, because I don't let these engineers, I mean, Tom, no, I don't let them get away easy. I'm on the phone, I have my ideas, and sometimes I'm on point, sometimes they say you're crazy. But the whole idea is we really want to try to do what's responsible for the taxpayer. And obviously, if I spend all my budget, I get such a big budget, I really don't want to put it into power. I want to put it into, you know, buildings and grounds, you know, playscapes, structures, sidewalks, all the other things that a community needs, not just for water bill.
Okay. They're improving so fast. Why
They
I
are.
asked the question, their capacity is improving.
They're getting a lot better. Like the VRF is like the first VRF, I think, to my knowledge, we're gonna be putting it at Alcorn, and it's a fairly sizable system. So, you know, this is kind of like a beta run, see how we can scale it. And if it works out really good, I already got it compatible for our building automation system, so we can start doing all sorts of fun gadgets. But this is what I do every day, so I do apologize. I nerd out on this stuff, but I do. So I apologize.
Easy.
All right, you two take it off.
I know we could go out, we could go, you know.
Well, there's up on the Green Bay, but listen, you have something like that.
Well, it was update on the Green Bay.
Oh.
Like what? You told me there was a hiccup?
Do you know any details about that?
I would have to direct that to Concha.
Okay.
So I was, you know, working with the information, but once it starts getting into outside of like site locations,
There was something with the contract, and I didn't get the, because I took away so much, so I did not get the full, you know, information.
But what do we
It's
know?
been delayed, is what my understanding is. But now, this is totally.
no, and there's another incentive program that's being bid now. I can't speak to it because that went between the town manager's office and legal, and I don't belong in either offices. I just need me. So, you know, I can tell you about trash stuff and, you know, other things. But
Okay, but was it any like change of policy?
I don't-
Council or anything, or is it
can't-
something?
I don't know. I really don't know. That was a
Okay.
conversation between them, and I can't really give you any good information.
Right. For me, I found it seemed like it was delayed because there was certain language in the contract, certain things that may be changing in the next 6 months.
there was some, I do know that there was some language issues. And I can't speak to it in a way that would be accurate. 'Cause I
Okay,
don't
well,
understand.
it sounds like it's sort of routine working things out and that.
Yes, now there's another system that they're looking into or another bidding process or something, but I mean, I'm definitely not. I stay out.
I make a motion that we don't have to leave for a while. We won't have to.
Right. Right, and I make a motion that we have some regular updates flowing to us.
And also some of the routes that they looked at and the things that they're really not ready yet.
No, we're a little early. I know there was
I think we're a little bit early on
there was a weird commitment with how it all worked out and when it had to go. Like, again, I can't really speak to it, but I know there was a lot of back and forth and I really just chimed on where I thought it would make the best sense and provide them the information, how much power, what I expect and all that stuff. But outside of like the technical stuff, I stay out of contract.
Yeah.
Also was how to connect to the roof. That was another
That was a point of concern.
concern, right? And I'm not, I don't know, they go on so many roofs that for me it's more place. But
They start drilling holes in the roof.
I think it had to do with certain warranties from like a roof, who covers the repair. Again, there was a lot of back and forth with the Green Bay folks, town manager's office, and then going with attorney opinion. So, I know it's not dead. I just don't know what the next steps are.
The conduit that brings the power, that's the whole side of the building, that's just natural.
I'm not super well versed in what's our jurisdiction, and I know the staff is working it out. I don't want to micromanage, but I think if there's some way that that we know about major developments.
Actually, we'll get a better update at the next meeting for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna just put that all in one little.
Yeah, that's kind of plain English, that works.
And I
Next.
can relay the message. On this project and
Right, well, that's what happens when we get the ball, and we say here.
Yeah, that's great. No, just, we want to support, and if there is any kind of hiccup, we want to.
I'll send a.
Right, or if you need
Thank
more
you.
from us,
Yeah, and we don't want to be a pain in the butt.
No, what I'll do is I'll just ask Kasha.
Put that in the minutes. Yeah, okay. And we had talked last time, I had pitched kind of coming up with more of an Enfield energy strategy. And in the time since that meeting, I have been replacing all the hardwood floors in my house and painting the entire downstairs of my house single-handedly, so I have nothing to report.
okay, thank you, Melissa.
Yes, onward.
Melissa's conserving her energy.
Yeah.
Okay, but I will add the language that you want. But that's what this committee for me has always been a source of gathering information. And, keeping everybody motivated to do it. So, okay, transfer station update. Get ready to go to bed?
It's
It's
It's in review with, we're hoping to publish as soon as we can, but, similar story with our roofs, it's under review.
okay, but at least we know we've already gotten one to the point where.
But we're still excited. I know I'm excited for it to go. I'm still, absolutely, I can't wait.
I was just there yesterday with, scrap metal. And, this can't happen soon enough.
Oh, I know.
And we just.
I may go to the bulky areas on Saturdays and pick the wrong time, and I'm totally happy to see that certain things happen.
Okay, so Jonathan, what information we gave to the school, have we gotten any feedback on that?
I think the end of the year, the school year is caught up to everybody. So
Okay.
gonna have to wait till. start of August.
All right, well, at least they got the information.
But it's something I'll bring back up in August.
Okay, good. Okay, and that's not here, but you can go to our Facebook page and anything else, and we have stuff, I have no new business. Anybody have any anything that they need to discuss, so.
I do, Donna, Tina. Just a couple things. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously the Enfield High sign was demolished with the storm yesterday. And we definitely need to consider a sign that is double-sided and sits out differently so that you can see it from both sides of Enfield Street, no matter which way you're turning in.
That's historic.
Yeah, that has stuff in it.
They won't allow it.
Okay.
They claim that historically this is the way the sign was, but yet you know and I know the sign was always this way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of people have complained about it in the past because it's much easier when you're coming north, but when you're coming south, people will miss that driveway. But if it's historical, it's historical.
But they had the lighted sign out there way back, green sign, and it was both sided. And then this historical, this commission came, what, 25 years ago? They're not a 100-year-old commission. And they claim that even Enfield Street School has to be this one. Yeah, no, well, this way with the road, this way with the road.
That's a state road.
We're gonna do some research.
Yeah.
Since since
Can't you
the
try to apply for a waiver or something for that?
Well, that's what we have to ask them, I guess.
right, since the sign was destroyed, then I wouldn't be even suggesting it. But since it was destroyed, can we, do some research to see if we can, do something with the sign?
So that would be a zoning variance. We're actually going through that with JFK currently. We'll let you know how we make out with the town.
Yeah, because that old sign came out so you could see it from both sides of the road.
At JFK, correct.
Yeah.
But the new proposed sign, which I know many of you haven't seen yet, it's only been discussed building committee for JFK, but it does exceed the size standards for zoning. So we've already started the conversations with the town with applying for a variance.
Well, I said it at JFK, and I'll say it again, that you guys want to do the lighting thing, like that, that's all. And I know that there's people complaining about the assumption sign, that it's not allowed in town.
Yeah.
Every other school put up their signs.
Yeah, so, good luck. Yes.
I mean, for all of us who, I heard Donna.
Technology, new technology, We also need LED, it's all LED now too, and it's,
You get one like that, I need one that's built too. We're talking about JFK and that's hot. So has that banner on it that's been there for a couple of years now.
those kind of stuff.
The brand new sign up there. Not on the top. Yeah, no, but we have that cheesy looking.
Even just to put the signs on the building, we have to go through planning. So like any sign in town, it's tough with like Enfield High and Enfield Street. It's planning and zoning plus the historic district committee.
Yep.
So there's rules.
There's one example in town. Go look at PC Richards. There's no and sons about it because it exceeded the amount of letters. So
I understand that there's a historical aspect, and then if we have to go through P&Z, but we have one high school in town, and consistently people miss the drive-through. So we have to be able to try to figure something out.
What we have to do is-
I don't know how much the members of the committee changed over the last few years, but we had solar issues. The rule was it could only be a square or a rectangle. And, over a few meetings, we had to wait a minute, let's bring some common sense to this and back and forth. And I think it's like I mean, I have no idea, but I think it's worth doing that.
I agree. So what would we do as a group, present to the planning and zoning?
Maybe write a letter and request a conversation just to outline that we respect the deep history of 1960.
The director of planning and development, Lori Whitten. Because some signs are administrative. Like when we do, they usually talk to her and she calls it. So this one, so she could probably, gonna provide better insight on how that goes as a town planner, better than I could. But I would say the first avenue as, anybody that's doing anything, whether it's commercially, as a person, a good person, as a resident of town, probably reach out to staff over there, talk to them, and they can give you an idea of how it works, and then if you didn't like it, how would a variance go through? And it's not just from them. I know there's our rules, but I know there's like state rules that also go through. So it's like.
So who could the point person on that be?
I can reach out. I can reach out and talk about the sign problem and see what they can do to address it. How to do a different sign.
Do we bring her in as a guest here? Because if
I
it's
could-
come in every single building we deal with.
I could reach out to her, see if you would mind spending an afternoon with us. But her, because I think be probably a little bit of a learning experience for us. So we try not to replace too many signs. Storms happen, but usually we try to keep them where they are when we put them in. So.
To get around, if you have to get around the whole sign, there's a full road versus,
Perpendicular sign, what it, right, go
Yeah.
from my-
That's
I'm
the
thinking of the
historical
other
commission.
signs around that. Typically like church. Farther down. They don't have additional elements. Okay, but they don't have additional elements sign that brings it back, like for an angle, they got the blocks, things that make the sign deeper, so maybe if we can't get it, perpendicular to the road, maybe we can get something to sign on it that makes it bigger, like get a big people to come up the top.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's such a small space on the side that they have it because we have the neighbors right next to it. So that sign took up a lot of space. It's just that
piece of awful.
because of the sidewalk, it's a little bit far back, and then oftentimes you don't see it until you're right on top of it. For whatever reason, it's harder coming south from the south, going south, I should say.
That tree just fell down, so it might be easier.
Yeah, yes, that's true.
Jackie, why didn't you tell me? I'm gonna cut that tree down here.
Did you see the picture?
No, I didn't.
I'll send it to you, Walter. It's like the tree, like right on the sign. Like the only thing that's left are the posts.
Somebody up there is looking at it.
Yeah. The other thing are we good with that? The other thing I wanted to mention is, I don't know if there's some sort of schedule with buildings and grounds and the landscaping, but Enfield High got really, really out of control this past spring. Like we have all those nice benches out and the weeds were growing through the benches. There was no weeding. There was like overgrowth everywhere. And I don't know if there's some sort of plan that this gets taken care of, but again, we're only one high school and I don't know. I sent it to Walter and I think Walter sent it off to you, Jeff, but that just really bothered me. And because I'm on joint facilities, I want to put it out there.
Both of these things, we can send Vinnie,
I can't hear you. What'd you say, Donna?
I just put an email. Basically, all these things that we do. And that would get everybody motivated. So what I'm doing is, all the counselors that are part of this committee, put them on the email and say, look, this came up, and, committee comments, we need to have this addressed. Also, what else we need to have addressed, and I forgot at the town council meeting, is that we have all these spots for beautification. And it's funny you should say that because they're all overgrown, all over town. And
Yeah.
everybody step up and, make them feel beautiful again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, spot.
Yeah,
We're supposed to maintain the spot, and then I guess what ends up happening is something things that need done for that staff. It's not a, usually it's a point when we come in and clean it up and stuff like that. It's a pain with this particular year between the work we took on, the reopening, and then we had all the rain, we couldn't get our machinery out. We have 22 buildings and ground staff, but they're not all on lawnmowers. We have a lot of mowing and trimming. So when we hit big, like right now,
So your renovation.
we have all the renovation things and, you know, people are on vacation. So then we got the graduation. It's just, it's not always easy, and it's not always a nice thing to see that. And we did, I did bring it up to Mark, and, you know, I knew that was also timing with the graduation, wanting to make it look, you know, good. And it's not an excuse or anything like that, but just, if, you know, sometimes it happens, but I can tell you, like, with the rain we're having, trying to get into that backfield at the high school, the grass is gonna grow and it's gonna be mud, and I can't get a machine out there until it dries. And if I do put a machine, it's gonna be stuck, and then we'll send in another machine and they'll be stuck. But we don't have to irrigate for a little while at least, you know. But this is a big headache when we get the rain like this, and this time of year and it's hot. That grass just snaps back and.
Jeff, you mentioned the adopted spots and how some of that stuff is out of control. And I was looking for things for my teenagers to volunteer and do, you know, to help them. When I look at the town website, there's a lot of adult things for volunteering, and I'm wondering if that's something that these teenagers maybe could do over the summer to volunteer, either clean those up, since they're not really a town responsibility. It's not, you know, something that your guys should be doing. And it's not necessarily taking away from someone else's responsibilities. If there's some way we can kind of put that out to some groups that want to help with that, and just don't know that it needs to be done.
That's a great idea. It's not a part for like us as staff. We're not always the greatest, publicizers, I guess. Lack of a better word, like I'm not an advertiser, right?
Or if we can just get those things added to the town website,
Well,
like
like,
things
you know,
that, you know,
Yeah, I think anyway.
groups can do, like, I know like the athletic teams always like to do community service to give back. Those are things that they could help with. They help with the soup kitchens and stuff like that. That's certainly something they could jump in and help with.
I would say.
That
that's a
is
great
gonna
idea.
show, you know, and they can even, you know, brag about, hey, we cleaned this up, and people will see. Yeah.
Through the island at the town building right now. You know, Bob Keller, who was a teacher there, did that for years and years and years. He was, you know, the teacher in the building. When he retired and left in the school, it just says grown up, nobody's touched it. That's a perfect spot to start with.
yes, it's on away from the road.
Yeah.
And I always drive down the sidewalk. That one, you have to have barricades up to them.
I guess this all, like, it didn't even happen this summer. Like, this had been ongoing since like April or May, with the overgrowth there. And, you know, you pull up to the school and you can't even sit out on the benches. It was just a little disheartening to see. That's all.
Signs and curb appeal and two very important. You let them get out of control, it's harder to get that up.
Well, this is something that has to be considered when there's new construction. They have to have the proper outdoor maintenance, keep your building looking
We
sharp.
talked about that with the
Yes, we
NCLT,
did.
that
We
was
talked
something
about that,
more difficult
you
to
know.
make.
I would say that at JFK, like, less is more. Like, all the islands and stuff and everything looked great at Enfield High when it's maintained. But since we're doing JFK, if all that extra greenery is going to be a lot to maintain, maybe we should reconsider that. But I'm not on the JFK building committee, so I don't know which way it's going. But
No more boulevards. Right?
yeah,
No more boulevards. Really difficult.
So you bring it up with the comment. What's that more?
I mean, you know, like I said, yep,
Big key items right there.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you can go to Kasha and, you know, do what you have to do, that'd be great.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's a good point.
And Lori, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
It's an ongoing project.
We spent, I think we spent a better part of a year trying to get the issue resolved with the sign in Enfield High School. We're on that committee, it just, it was
Well,
crazy.
that's a good thing, legal law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be more than happy to reach out to, Lori, because I know, when we were talking about right before, and had Mr. Wilcox come on, because I mean, I don't always understand the nuances, so I'd rather let the subject matter expert speak more to it, so I can definitely reach out and see, I'll be in communication with Walter and the mayor, see when we get on the agenda, next meeting or whatever, and we'll see.
But we like that digital sign as well, because I had a citizen approach me about a big sign that we have here on the corner of Main. And they said, why is it that digital?
Because they're not allowed, is what I was told. I know, it's time to change that.
And I said, at the meeting, they were like, that, you know, just because history happened then, doesn't mean it.
I know, we're one of the very few towns that have not seen things like electronic signs, and that's okay. We're one of the very, very few. Any other comments?
Any more comments, anyone?
Walter, I sent you that picture.
I drove by, I was like, uh-oh.
I know. I didn't drive by it yet, but somebody sent the picture to me. I was like, oh boy. And then I'm just worried about what the rain's gonna do to everyone tomorrow because everything's so wet and soft from the rain.
I just look at the range here, because I gotta use that tool.
Yeah. That's all I have, but thank you for listening.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Thank you.
what do you thought?
Any more? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion.
All in favor? Anybody want to say something?
Thank you.
Next one, yes.
What is that?
Once we go out to bid and we're out there and doing the roofs, we can go to once a month.
Frustrating,